The office was a tomb of silence, broken only by the faint hum of the air conditioner and the thud of my heart. I stood before Ethan Caldwell's desk, clutching my resignation letter, its edges crumpling under my sweaty palms. 6 months under his icy glare had convinced me I was a failure until he looked up, his steel blue eyes piercing, and said, "Stay?" I'd always thought Ethan hated me. The CEO of Caldwell Enterprises, a tech giant in Seattle, was a man carved from ambition and cold precision. At 35, he was a legend, ruthless, brilliant, untouchable. His tailored suits and sharp jawline made interns whisper, but his curt orders and relentless critiques made me, his executive assistant, feel like a speck of dust on his polished desk. I was 25, fresh out of college, and drowning in his world of deadlines and expectations. Every redo this or not good enough from him chipped away at my confidence, until I couldn't take it anymore. That morning, I'd walked into the glass-walled headquarters with my letter, ready to quit. The office buzzed with the usual chaos, phones ringing, developers arguing over code, coffee machines hissing. I navigated the maze of cubicles, my stomach twisting. Ethan's corner office loomed ahead, a fortress of tinted glass and power. I knocked, my knuckles barely grazing the door before his voice, low and commanding, called, "Come in." He didn't look up from his laptop as I entered. The room smelled of leather and his cedarwood cologne, a scent that had haunted me for months. I stood there, letter in hand, rehearsing my speech. I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I'm not the right fit. But before I could speak, he leaned back in his chair, his gaze locking onto mine. "What's that?" he asked, nodding at the paper. "My resignation," I said, voice barely above a whisper. "I'm done, Mr. Caldwell." His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes, something I couldn't name. He stood, all 6 feet of him, and walked around the desk. The door clicked shut behind me, the lock snapping into place. My breath caught. "Don't resign yet," he said, his voice softer, almost pleading. "We need to talk." I froze. Ethan Caldwell didn't talk. He issued orders. He didn't lock doors. He kept them open for efficiency. And he certainly didn't look at me like I was the only person in the room. My mind raced. Was this about the Q4 reports? The client meeting I'd botched last week? Or something else entirely? "Sit," he said, gesturing to the leather chair across from his desk. I obeyed, my legs shaky. He didn't return to his seat, but leaned against the desk, close enough that I could see the faint stubble on his jaw, the way his tie was slightly loosened, revealing a sliver of collarbone. My mouth went dry. "You think I hate you, don't you?" he asked, his tone unreadable. I swallowed. "You've made it pretty clear, sir. The constant critiques, the way I stopped, heat rising to my cheeks. I couldn't say it. The way you make me feel small, invisible, yet somehow desperate for your approval." He tilted his head, studying me. "You're wrong, Lucas." My name on his lips sent a jolt through me. He never used my name. It was always Mr. Hayes or nothing at all. "I push you because you're better than you think. Because I see you." I laughed, bitter and disbelieving. "See me? You've spent 6 months tearing me apart." "Because I can't afford to lose you." His voice cracked, and the room seemed to shrink. He ran a hand through his dark hair, frustration etching lines into his face. You're the only one who gets it. What gets me? This company, this life, it's a machine, and you're the only one who makes it human. I stared, my resignation letter forgotten in my lap. This wasn't the Ethan Caldwell I knew. This was someone raw, unguarded, and terrifyingly close to breaking. What are you saying? I whispered. He stepped closer, his hand hovering near mine, not touching but close enough to feel the heat. I'm saying I've been an idiot. Lucas, I've been pushing you away because I'm scared of what happens if you stay. My heart pounded so loud I was sure he could hear it. Scared of what? He didn't answer. Instead, he reached out, his fingers brushing the edge of my sleeve. The touch was electric, forbidden, and I didn't pull away. I couldn't. Not when his eyes held mine, full of something I'd never dared to imagine, longing. The office felt like a pressure cooker, every second stretching into eternity. I'd spent months convincing myself Ethan was untouchable, a man who lived for profit margins and power plays. But now, with the door locked and his breath mingling with mine, I saw the truth. He wasn't just my boss. He was a man, flawed and fighting something bigger than both of us. I don't understand, I said, my voice trembling. You're Ethan Caldwell. You don't need anyone. He smiled. A small, broken thing. That's what I thought, too. Until you. The words hit like a tidal wave. I wanted to run, to tear up the letter and pretend this moment never happened. But I also wanted to stay, to lean into the impossible heat between us. I was a nobody, a kid from a small town who'd stumbled into this corporate jungle. He was a king. Yet here we were, two men on the edge of something neither of us could name. The phone on his desk buzzed, shattering the moment. He ignored it, but reality crept back in. We can't, I said, standing, my resignation letter falling to the floor. This is crazy. You're my boss. Lucas. Wait, he started. But I was already at the door, fumbling with the lock. I didn't look back as I fled, my heart a mess of fear and hope. I thought I'd escaped. But deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. The Seattle skyline glittered through the office windows, a cruel reminder of the world moving on while I stood frozen. It had been 2 days since I'd run from Ethan's office. His words, I see you, burning holes in my sleep. I hadn't resigned yet, but I hadn't faced him either, dodging his calls and burying myself in spreadsheets to avoid the truth. I was falling for my boss. Work became a tightrope. Every meeting, every email, felt like a test. Ethan was still the same CEO to everyone else sharp, commanding, untouchable. But now, I caught the way his eyes lingered on me during briefings, the way his voice softened when he said my name. It was subtle, but it was there, and it terrified me. I wasn't out. Not really. My family back in Spokane thought I was too busy for relationships, and I'd let them believe it. Coming out in a corporate world like Caldwell Enterprises, where whispers could ruin careers, felt like stepping into a minefield. By Wednesday, I couldn't avoid him anymore. He summoned me to a late-night strategy session, just the two of us. The office was empty, the hum of computers replaced by an eerie quiet. I knocked on his door, my palms sweaty. Come in, he said, his voice steady but warm. He was at his desk. Tie gone. Shirt unbuttoned at the collar. The sight of him, less polished, more human, made my chest ache. "Lucas," he said, standing. "You've been avoiding me." "I haven't." I lied, my voice cracking. "I've just been busy." He raised an eyebrow, unconvinced. "Sit. We need to finish what we started." I hesitated, then took the chair across from him. The resignation letter was still in my bag, untouched since I'd fled. "What do you want from me?" I asked, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "You're my boss. You can't just say things like that." He leaned forward, elbows on the desk, his gaze intense. "I'm not just your boss, Lucas. Not anymore. And I think you know that." My breath hitched. "This is a mistake. You're Ethan Caldwell. You could have anyone." "Why me?" "Because you're you," he said, like it was the simplest thing in the world. "You're the only one who challenges me, who sees through the bullshit. You make me want to be better." I wanted to laugh, to tell him he was insane. But the sincerity in his voice stopped me. I stood, pacing to the window, needing distance. The city lights blurred as my eyes stung. "You don't get it," I said. "I'm not like you. I don't belong in your world. I'm just some kid trying to survive." He was behind me in an instant, his presence overwhelming. "You're not just anything," he said, his voice low. "You're everything I didn't know I needed." I turned, and he was too close, his hand brushing my arm. The touch sent sparks through me, and I hated how much I wanted it. "What happens if this goes wrong?" I whispered. "You're risking everything: your company, your reputation, and you're risking your heart," he said, his voice raw. "I know. But I'm willing to fight for this. For us." Before I could respond, he closed the distance, his lips brushing mine. It was tentative, a question, and I answered by kissing him back, hard and desperate. The world fell away: deadlines, expectations, fear. There was only him, his hands on my waist, his breath warm against my skin. It was reckless, dangerous, and perfect. But perfection doesn't last. The next morning, reality crashed in. A coworker, Sarah, caught me leaving Ethan's office. My hair mussed, his tie still on the floor. Her eyes widened, and I knew the rumors would spread like wildfire. By noon, whispers followed me through the cubicles. "Lucas and the CEO. No way. He's too straight-laced. What's a kid like him doing with Caldwell?" I wanted to disappear, but Ethan found me in the break room, his expression grim. "We need to talk," he said, pulling me into a storage closet. The irony wasn't lost on my hiding in a closet, literally and figuratively. "They know," I said, panic rising. "This is going to ruin everything." "Not if we control the narrative," he said, his voice steady. "I'm not ashamed of you, Lucas. I'm not hiding." I stared at him, torn between fear and awe. "You're willing to go public. For me. For us," he corrected. "But only if you're ready." I wasn't. Not yet. But his certainty, his willingness to risk it all, made me believe we could survive this. We left the closet, hand in hand, and walked back into the office. Heads turned. Whispers grew. But Ethan's grip on my hand was unbreakable. For the first time, I felt like I belonged not just in his world, but in my own skin. The fallout was brutal. By the end of the week, the rumors had reached the board. Caldwell Enterprises was a public company, and Ethan's personal life was suddenly everyone's business. Blogs speculated about the CEO's secret affair, and anonymous posts on X hinted at favoritism. I felt like a liability, a crack in Ethan's perfect empire. But he never wavered. We met in his office after hours, the city dark beyond the windows. "I'm sorry," I said, slumping into a chair. "This is my fault. I should have resigned when I had the chance." He knelt in front of me, his hands on my knees. "Don't you dare," he said, his voice fierce. "You're not the problem. They are. And I'm done letting them dictate my life." I wanted to believe him, but the pressure was crushing. My family called, confused by the headlines. "Lucas, what's going on?" My mom asked, her voice tight. I didn't know how to explain that I'd fallen for a man who was both my boss and my salvation. I promised to visit soon, to explain in person, but the thought of facing them terrified me. Ethan had his own battles. The board called an emergency meeting, questioning his leadership. He faced them head-on, refusing to deny our relationship. "My personal life doesn't change my ability to run this company," he told them, his voice like steel. I wasn't there, but Sarah, who'd become an unexpected ally, told me he'd fought for us with a fire she'd never seen. Still, the world wasn't kind. A major client pulled out, citing instability. Stocks dipped. I felt like I was drowning Ethan's legacy. One night, I found him on the office rooftop, staring at the city. "Maybe I should go," I said, my voice breaking. "You don't need this mess." He turned, his face illuminated by the city lights. "You think I care about the stock price more than you. Lucas, I've built this company from nothing. I can rebuild it. But I can't rebuild what I feel for you." Tears stung my eyes. "I'm scared," I admitted. "I've never done this, loved someone like this, out in the open." He pulled me into his arms, his warmth grounding me. "Neither have I," he said. "But we'll figure it out. Together." The turning point came unexpectedly. A young intern, Jamie, approached me in the cafeteria. "I saw the news," she said, her voice shy. "I just wanted to say, you guys give me hope. I'm queer, too. And seeing you and Mr. Caldwell, it makes me feel like I can be myself here." Her words hit me like a lifeline. I realized our story wasn't just ours. It was a beacon for others. That night, Ethan and I made a decision. We'd go public, not just to survive the rumors, but to show the world that love, in any form, was worth fighting for. We released a joint statement. Simple and honest, we're together. We're committed to this company and to each other. The backlash didn't stop, but the support was overwhelming. Employees shared their own stories. Clients sent messages of solidarity, and a small but fierce community rallied around us. The stock rebounded, slowly, and the board backed off. Months later, I stood on that same rooftop with Ethan, his hand in mine. The city stretched out before us, infinite and alive. I thought you hated me, I said, laughing softly. He kissed my forehead, his lips warm. I never hated you, Lucas. I was just too stubborn to admit I loved you. We weren't perfect. The world wasn't perfect. But in that moment, with the stars above and his heartbeat steady against mine, I knew we'd made it. Not just as a couple, but as two people who'd chosen to be brave, to be seen, to be human. And that was enough.